All right, everybody. Welcome to the this special edition of the Coaches Networking Zoom call with Nathaniel Montgomery. Really super excited to have Nathaniel here. Nathaniel's been a coach for quite a while. I'm going to let him tell you his story. But one of the things that I love is that you were a member and attended six of the Steve Chandler's AJCs.
Yeah.
Is that right?
The close. It was the ACS
Oh, ACS. Okay.
for
Oh, that's right.
advanced,
That's on Cush's. Yeah,
yeah,
ACS. There you go.
for
Thank you.
advanced client systems.
Okay. Awesome. Awesome. And how long have you been a coach?
I've been doing it pro for 11 years. Did
Awesome.
you hear me that? Oh, but before
Awesome.
that, I was like doing it in like not for money.
Super cool. Well, I'm
Yeah.
excited to hear your story, and I'm going to be listening intently. And I'd love to hear about your journey and what you think would serve the people that are here on the call today. Um, and then taking some notes and asking you some questions, and then open it up to some questions after that. How's that sound?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right, take it away.
Okay. I'm just gonna start with how I got into coaching. Because I think that was a very interesting story. My background is performing arts. I have a degree in theater, and I thought I'd be like an actor or director. And then after I graduated, though, I was just, your typical like I'm bartending. I'm bartending and serving in restaurants, and then so I don't have a background in business or psychology, um, like a lot of people that go into coaching is. And I was really into personal development though. And then one day I read this book by Jack Canfield, Success Principles, or it was like 22, Jack Canfield's 22 Success Principles. And one of those principles was hire a coach. And I thought, I never even heard of that. This was like 16 years ago now, 17 years ago now, and I didn't know the even the term life coach yet. And then I happened to see like a little business card on a cork board in like a coffee shop. And it was like a guy with a life coach. And I was like, I never saw that before. I never like saw anybody advertising. And then so I like called it. I called the number and I met with this guy. And he had a definitely like weird vibe, and he was very silly to me, but he was telling me about the coaching industry, and he was like having phone calls internationally, had clients from all over the world, and then I didn't end up hiring that guy, but it made me think if that guy can do it, I could do this. So now I'm thinking of this as like this could be like my job.
Sorry? No, I'm gonna go upstairs.
Cool. Yeah. So then anyway, I looked into like getting life coaching training. And then when I did, I thought I want to be a spiritual life coach. So I went to a spiritual life coach like certification program, and I got about halfway through, and I didn't like it, or I didn't think I could possibly be a coach, so I quit. I thought, I'm not a businessman. It's not for me. And then there is definitely a letting go for like a year. I was at peace with that. And then I got this calling though that I was like, I really think I really should be a coach still. And I was like, maybe it was just because it just wasn't in the right school. So then I try another one, this law of attraction school. And the law of attraction certification school, I got through this time about 9/10 of the way through. It was like a year-long program. I did all of the hours, the free practice hours. I was all ready to do the test, and then I decided I don't know. I don't think I'm a businessman. I don't think I could do this niche because at the end of the program, they're talking about business stuff. Like this is old school now because they were like, you have to have an elevator speech. You have to have a business card. You've got to have a phone with a voice recording. And and I just like I can't do it. I got real afraid that I like the coaching, but I got so afraid of being an entrepreneur that I'd rather stay a bartender and wait tables the rest of my life than like do that. So then I quit again. And this time I quit for 5 years. 5 years. Thinking, nope. Anytime it came up, I was like, nope, too hard. I'm too lazy to even try to get good at the skills that you would need to be good at it. Um, but then I was still into personal development. I'm scrolling around on all of these different I don't know. I'm just got lost in the rabbit hole and online looking at things, and I found this guy Brian Johnson who did these really cool videos. You can still find him. He where he was he was summarizing books, but for like 5 minutes, the big points in some sort of self-development book. But he did it on paper, and all you saw in the YouTube video was his writing, his notes for it. You didn't even see him. Then he changed it later where you saw him, but I was like, wow, that's so crazy. I loved it so much that I looked him up further, and he had this business called Entheos. And Entheos was like um it was almost like it was a bunch of 1 hour lectures on a bunch of different topics. Like you could do 1 hour on the art of fitness, 1 hour on, mind control. I don't know. But one of the ones that well, I was like, man, they had this thing where you could pick one of them to watch to see if you wanted to buy it, the subscription to it, and you like could I never really saw this before where you had access to like all of them, and you're like you can just pick one of them to watch. And I'm like, I don't know. I didn't know even exactly what I wanted to get better at, and I didn't know. So I'm like scrolling through, and then suddenly I stop on one, and this is the magic because it was a Steve Chandler video about called the Prosperous Coach. And I didn't know him. I didn't know what that was. Until that moment, I thought I didn't even want to be a coach. But then I found myself like, I don't know, I want to watch that one. And and then I put it on, and Steve Chandler, for people that don't know him, he's like an older guy with like whitish hair, and and in that time I'd only really seen like these really professional women. Like when I went to those coaching schools, it was just like almost all women. All the instructors were women. And then this having this like old guy that looked like this absent-minded professor like was so refreshing to me. Then I'm like, oh my God, I love this guy. So I keep watching. And he's just and now he's saying all the things to make coaching seem like I want to do it.
Mhm.
He's relaxing me from the instantly, and he's taking away fears like you don't have to have a business card. He's like, you can just meet people and ask them for theirs. You don't have to look impressive. You don't have to wear a suit and tie. He's like, you don't even have to comb your hair. And I was like, he's like, you could do it with messy hair. And I was like, "This is so funny." And then, but it was really getting me to think about how I could do this. And then one of the things that really scared me about being an entrepreneur was the niching.
Mm.
And then he said, niche rhymes with quiche and belongs in France. It was so like what? It's like you don't have to find a niche. Um, you can just coach people and then let the niche find you. Like maybe eventually you coach 10 lawyers and then but it's not intentionally. So the guy was so cool that I was like, I want to be a coach now. But and then I looked him up and I found him on Facebook. And I was like, I wonder if this guy, and Facebook wasn't that old at that point, but I was like, I wonder if he'd, respond back to me if I DM him. And then he did. I was like, huh? And then he started talking to me, like, and I was like, that's cool. Because guy has like 40 books and he seems pretty like a big deal. So, but he's talking to me and I asked him, I was like, I have this stupid question. My question was, hey, I have all these Facebook friends, like all 800. I have like 800. That's how many I had at the time. I have 800, and I was wondering if I should. c- okay, so in the Prosperous Coach, there's this method connect, invite, coach, and propose. That's like their whole method. And I asked this dumb question about, oh, should I like connect with all 800? Should I like, uh, and then he didn't even answer that question. He was like, I know a person that can answer that question better than me. And then he introduced me to this other coach, Jason Goldberg, who I think you're gonna have later, like next month or something. And Jason Goldberg, this was hilarious. This is what I'm telling. So he had, they were Facebook friends, and Steve just wrote, not in a personal message, he just wrote on his wall so everybody could see, hey, can you help my friend Nathaniel? He has a question. And then Jason said, I'll sure do my best, Steve. He didn't even know what the question was. And then and then Jason DM'd me and then he was like, "Hey, I heard you have a question." And I was like, "Yeah." And I think I typed it in this thing about eight, like should I contact all? That's all the question was. Should I contact and connect with all 800 of those? And then he said, this was also funny. I learned so much just in this. He was like, I can answer your question versus DM, but like my fingers are sensitive and they hurt, could get hurt really easily. Can we just do it over the phone? I don't that was really funny that he's like, yeah, my fingers might start bleeding if I answer this question. So there's always like a funny way to say everything. That's one of my first lessons. And then we got on the phone call and I said my question and then we broke it down. But the answer and Steve never even like touched that question. He just was like he knew that Jason Goldberg was his client at the time, and Jason Goldberg, was newer than Steve. Um I think he'd been doing it like 3 years at that point. Um, so Jason worked, was willing to work with this dumb question. So, so, but Jason, like, basically in that conversation where he was answering this question, it turned into a coaching conversation. And he gave me like 90 minutes, and it was like phenomenal. And he was saying some things about, I don't think you need more training. I think you can just get started. Um, and I'd already had practice hours and stuff for the coaching, but I'd never done it officially. And he was like, I think you can just like do it. And I think you should slow down. The answer to that question is like one person at a time. Don't look at all of them. One person. Just think of it like that. Contact one person from your Facebook list and and um don't get ahead of yourself. Slow down. Don't like rush and think like you have to meet everybody. Um and then I had this coaching session with my dad. So I set this up. I was like, well, I better like just see how it goes. So I asked my dad if I could coach him, and then he was like, "You We did it, and we did it like at Barnes and Nobles, and my dad loved it, and he was like, "Oh my God, you're like really good at this." It was like really helpful for him. We were able to like separate father and son, and I was just able to zero in on his problem, like one thing, and like work towards that. Um, and just using my intuition really, and it was helpful for him so much that he's like, "I want to do something to support you." What would you do if I gave you some money how would you use it? And I was like, well, I would use it for a coach. I wouldn't buy a bunch of ads. Um, and then I go back to Jason Goldberg and I was like, hey, my dad wants to invest in me now that after your call, and I don't know what to even invest in. And then he talked to me about all the options. At first, he said, I don't think you should do Steve Chandler's school. He's like, yeah, there's a lot of like experienced people and they're making a lot of money, and there's not a lot of new coaches to do it. So you might not might be your first step. So I didn't do it yet. But I did end up hiring Jason. And Jason was like pretty awesome about like he didn't like sell me on himself. He went through all of the options. He was even talking about, hey, you could hire this other coach, Christina Berkeley. You could hire this, you could go to the Michael Neal Super Coach School. He was so, he was really detached seemingly going through and being like, let's discover what the best option really is for you. So that's like another lesson about like be really interested in what's best for the person, not what's best for you. If you just need money or you need a client, you might ignore um something that they need. And then but I did end up working with him because he was so awesome. And it's a vibe and you feel good around a person. Um he was really funny and like laid back, but also he wasn't afraid to just like tell tell the truth or ask a really like difficult question to answer. So he was like this really cool model of bold and light. He wasn't serious, but he did take coaching seriously, if that makes sense. Light, but also professional. Maybe that's the better word. And then anyway, I did that, and then I was ready. I got Stacey Goldberg like taught me this whole like prosperous coach way so I could set things up properly and I could start going out there and connecting with people and then inviting them to like a free coaching session, a complimentary coaching session, going through what even to do in a coaching session and what how to get into a second conversation and how to make a proposal and you kind of just one-on-one. I work really well under that like private lessons approach. That's how I think of one-on-one coaching. It's like, wow, it's like this is like private skiing lessons where you don't learn too much in the group, but when there's a dude working with you one-on-one all day, all by yourself on the ski slopes, you learn a lot about skiing. So it was like that. And then I went to then Jason said, "Hey, as part of this, I'm going to give you a ticket to Steve Chandler's Reinventing Yourself weekend." And the Reinventing Yourself weekend was based off his book, which is I really recommend, Reinventing Yourself. This book's for anybody. This is a good book like to give to any client. They don't have to be a coach or an entrepreneur or anything, anybody that wants to reinvent yourself. So we had this weekend and I got to go for free because or I mean it was just part of the package. And then that was awesome because that was where I got to meet Jason was going as like a guest speaker. Then I got to meet Steve in person. I'm like, oh my God. Like so and not that long of a time after I saw that little prosperous coach video, I'm like meeting him now. And then the guy, and I wanted to tell you about like when I first met him because I think it's important. Um, when I first met him, my first impression is one, he's hilarious. Um, and two, he's like really humble and self-deprecating even, and that's part of it's like, there's a method to the madness. Because he'll be like, oh, there's lots of coaches better than me. He's like, you guys are all probably smarter than me. He's always acting like he's the dumbest person in the room. He's always acting like he's like, I took 100 years to learn how to coach. I'm sure it won't take you guys that long. I did everything wrong and failed at everything. Um, and he wasn't afraid to be foolish. He wasn't afraid to look like a fool. He could say things like, you know what? Like somebody's talking to him. He's like, oh, whoa, 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 whoa. Like you're saying too much information coming at me at once. He's like, slow down and just say one thing. He's like, it's not you. He's like, it's my brain. I can't handle it. So he's he's like that. Um, and then so I'm like starting to fall in love with this dude. And then I uh saw him work with people during that whole reinventing yourself weekend. I like got to work with like how does Steve coach a regular person? And because his prosperous coach book is is about coaches, but this is just somebody that's like, I'm unhappy with my boss at work. And they would get up and raise their hand and he would spot coach them and he'd really work with them. And this is where I first learned like kind of one of my main principles is to be a detective. Um, I have a book called The Columbo Method based on Columbo, the TV show. But I get all my ideas like based. Steve kind of like is like a Columbo. He's this kind of disheveled old man that acts stupid and acts dumb on purpose, but you get people to confess that way. So I saw Steve acting dumb, like he didn't even know anything, and then somebody was like talking about their boss, and he'd just be like, "I don't know what do you mean?" And I don't understand. Why would you work somewhere where there's a mean boss? He's like, explain yourself. Everything he did was funny, and he even lightened up the person he was talking to. Um, that he'd just be like a detective and just ask about a bunch of questions before he ever told anyone anything. Um, So I loved it, and then I met him at the end of that, or I went up to him and I'm like, "Hey, I'm gonna do your school. I'm gonna do your advanced client systems school," which is a very boring title for a funny guy. But everyone called it ACS. And I said, I don't know how I'm gonna be there, but I don't have the money for it. Um, but it was, expensive. And I said, but I'm gonna find a way and I'm gonna be there. He's like, you can expect, I think I said, you can expect me there. And he's like, whoa, 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 like that's too much pressure. How about we just say, I'll count on it? Which is like another lesson about just language. He's like, nah, he's like, I'm not going to expect you to be there, but I will. But how about you? I count on it. And I count on it is similar, but it's lighter sounding. He always used some lighter version of what maybe other people would use. And it say things in a tone, and tone matters a lot, of so that just sounded like easier. Like, huh? And then he shook my hand and I was like, yeah, we'll count on it. This, I don't know how you guys are feeling right now, but it just sounded good. The vibe is so important. Fast forward anyway, I get there. I find a way. I'm going to the advanced client system. I had to borrow some more money um, from my dad, but I got in the room. You do whatever you can when it's like a dream. If it became a dream and a focus, I think I gave it like an Oscar award winning monologue to my dad about how I needed to go to the school. And I wasn't a person that like borrowed money or anything really. It's just like when you're passionate and you've got desire, like you can do anything. Like and so I had the money. So I got to the school. And the school is designed where there was 3 live weekends plus all the online stuff and 6 months journey for it. And then I got there to the first live weekend and I'm like, "Oh my God, there are all these intimidating coaches." Everybody had it seemed like 10 years of coaching experience and I had like none. I had like gotten a client, but I had one. One dude was my client. And everybody was there was people making like $500,000 a year. And you're like, why are they even here? Why are they even here? Because they're really interested in the art and the craft of this. It's almost like a master acting class, and then you have like Leonardo DiCaprio there, and you're like, why are you there? And then he's like, because I'm constantly working on my game. So I was like, oh, okay, that's what this is like. Yeah, and people are talking about craft, and they're talking about mastery, and they're talking about like it being an art form, even. And being creative and words that I'd never had even ever associated with coaching. But I was like totally in digging this. Um, and there were lots of people that like believed in me and believed it could happen. Um, this was so valuable to be around other people that have done what you want to do, and you're like, it's possible. You mean I can actually be an entrepreneur in this, which is different than the coaching certification school, which was a bunch of people that had never done it and like a instructor. But this was like I'm full of a room of people that are experienced, love coaching, know it works, still have everyone has their own obstacles of where they are. There's always another level. They might have 10 clients but want 20, you know? They might be making 50,000 and they want to make 100,000. They might make 100,000 but want to make 200,000. So there was just all these different levels, and Steve was really good at being in the room with all of them. Now, Steve always said he didn't focus on brand new coaches. He said something funny like he's like, I don't like to work with them when they've already figured out a few things. Or they've got like some success already because it's easier than a person that's never done it. But I was brand new. I'd barely done it. Um, and I'm in this room and I'm like a theater guy, and everyone else seemed like from psychology or corporate or from um some spiritual thing. Somebody's doing breath work. Someone has been a monk for 15 years. Somebody, and I'm like, I'm so out of my league. And then I'm just telling everybody, like, I know how to direct a play. But I okay, so I love this so much, this school, that I ended up doing it 6 times. I barely figured out how to do it the first time. And then I found out it was like going to be a repeatable course. You could do it, keep going for like, it's not going to cost as much to return. And you could just, and I'm like, oh, okay, that's why people are returning because it's not as much. And he designed it so it's not like you can just keep going to wherever you are. And then I was like, oh man, I gotta make it a goal to like, how am I gonna get to it next time? And I put out this thing where I'm like, hey, guys, I really think I need to be in this school for 4 years, like it's my medical school. I think I just need to like absorb this and immerse myself in this world and Steve for as long as I can. I don't want any other influence from any other coach's coach or any other training for coaches. I don't even want to look at it. I just want to read Steve's books and learn from Steve and be in Steve's world and keep working on it. So I was like, I gotta be in this again. And then it was like, how much did it be? Well, at the time I needed $5,000 to do it again. Um, I think it was like 9,000 or 8,000 the previous time. So I did a thing where I was like, "Hey, I'll coach people." And this at the time in that group, and this isn't a lot in a lot of groups, but I was able to make this offer in our Facebook group and be like, "Hey, I really want to do this group. I'm trying to raise the $5,000 to do it. Can I sell you guys like a month of coaching? And I'm really creative and I can help you with like implying improv to your coaching practice, or I could help you with presentations or speaking or stuff." Um, and I put out this thing, and then like a bunch of them wanted it. I don't know. I think they were just wanted to help me. So so they did it, and I coached 5 people for like $1,000 each. And then I got the money to do it again. And those people like that didn't become longtime clients or anything, but man, I it's just like another lesson of like I was just resourceful and started to just not give a you know give a crap, and I just did what I needed to do to get there, and um And so I got in there a second year. Like I've kept finding how to get clients so that the third time that I could do it like with my own coaching money, which I did. But that was year three. It took me like those first 3 years to really like start making a sizable amount of money. Uh, like I think I made, I don't know, a couple thousand the first year, and then like a few thousand the second year. But then it really took off, and I got to like 40,000. And then I was going to just invest as much as I possibly could to training. It just made so much sense. And when you really love like the person watching them, and I'm absorbing them and I'm becoming like Steve Chandler when I talk, because people are like, how can you get really good at coaching? Well, if you watch it and you love and you have like a model that's good at it, somebody better than you get better. And then you practice. You have to practice on other people and screw up and be bad. And then you're learning about what coaches could do. You can read books and personal development books and apply stuff in there to your coaching. But the main way is you're watching coaching and you're studying it and you're trying to implement what they do into your stuff. And I got really good that way. Is that enough for now of the story? Seemed kind of long.
Yeah, that's great. I love it. There's so much in what you shared. And I think the first thing that I'm curious about for the people that are on here, how many have ever started the journey of getting into some kind of helping profession and then stopped?
Yeah.
How many, like, I'm going to do this and then you stopped?
Hmm.
Definitely me. I've done that a couple times in different ways, or like I'm going all in and then backing up and doing something else for a while and being halfway in and 1 foot in and 1 foot out. So that was really relatable for me. And um, then you talked about getting in a rush. I'm curious how many people here you got in a rush, like where you were felt like you had to reach out to 800 people at one time. And I still do that.
Yeah.
I'm working on filling a group right now, and I'm like, feel myself rushing around trying to be like, if I don't fill this group, then I'm not good enough as a coach, and everybody's gonna think I'm terrible, right?
Yeah.
Um, so like really spending the time with one person at a time. I love that you shared that. Um, that's amazing. So and not rushing and being resourceful.
Hmm.
Um, You shared so much. And you said like when you first coached with your dad, you used your intuition,
Yeah.
right? You were
Uh-huh.
you were
If I would,
intuitive, right? Yeah.
I was like, I knew that I needed to have the container where we started at 4 o'clock and ended at 5 o'clock, and to bring like, one thing to coach on. But then, like, how you work with that, I don't know. I didn't have I didn't see a lot of how other people did it. So I just had to use what I call the force. But I was able to like do accidentally do a lot of things that coaches techniques in there just from intuition. For a while, I just coached like that. And people are like, you do a lot of the ICF stuff, Nathaniel. You don't even know you're doing it, but you are.
Hmm.
Just from like, tapping into something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so much more. You talked about, I think it took me a long time to hire a coach. I felt like to find a coach. I spent a lot of money on the coaches that were like, hey, we can get you $50,000 in 15 seconds as a coach.
Yeah,
It
yeah, yeah.
was like, oh yeah, I want to do that. And investing in something like that and then showing up to it and finding out that's not the way that it actually works is like I love it. This goes along with what else you said, which was be in this like it's a medical school.
Yeah.
Like we're really in a healing for me, coaching is a healing profession and I think it really takes a commitment, what I'm finding, because I thought when I showed up, and um, I'm curious if for you, if you felt like, hey, I'm going to show up to this and I'm going to have a list of people that are just waiting, knocking on my door. Did you experience that in the beginning where you thought, I'm going to show up and everybody's going to want help? Was it like that for you?
For me, yeah, you think that you're gonna get way more yeses. Be like, you'll want a coaching session, right? Like, it's free. You're gonna want to like after experiencing it, you're gonna want to just work on your thing, right? You, but no, it is tricky. And you have to have the right, something I didn't talk about was I had the worst energy at first going into these like whatever sales calls or proposal conversations where I was not confident and not and then people are like, well, you don't need to be confident to do it. But you can't just collapse in front of them. Where meaning like they're like, how much does it cost to work with you? And you're like, $4,000. And then I'm like, but it doesn't have to be $4,000. You'd be like, what do you need it to be? 3,000, 2,000? How about you pick your own fee? How about I just work with you for free? I'm just like falling apart because I just like I'm scared of people and money conversations. I had to like learn to how to like how can you like be in it and like be strong? Yeah.
Yeah, what have you experienced and learned that's helped you to be strong with that?
Yeah. So to think of it all as one big coaching session. It's all like it's not different. You don't want to bring any energy different than earlier. So I was more confident and energetic and kind of in a flow state earlier in the coaching session.
Hmm.
um being or maybe this is like a second conversation and like I've been good in both of them and they want to work with you like it's like wow, this has been helpful, so I've been in that and that good energy and then it's like, well, how much does it cost to work with you, or how do we work with you? And then I go, well, like it's some different coach or person showed up. But I had to think of it like, no, just be yourself earlier and think of it like, even if you're asking them about money, it's still like coaching them, not about you. It's about it does this, is it right for them? Like asking them questions. Like, do you want like to do this? Or like, how do you feel about $5,000? Like, you're still in coaching mode, not sales mode. Don't change your good coaching energy. Ask them questions. Slow it down. Take your time. Have You can still be funny. And like if you were funny earlier, you can still be funny in this part. It doesn't have to suddenly be the serious part. Well, now all the fun games are over and I'm gonna make you pay $3,000. It's like and then being willing to ask them questions about it. Like, can I ask you about your financial situation? Like as a coach would, not as a salesperson. And that was really helpful of like don't at all stages of the game, you're a coach. What? kind of experience do you want them to have as a coach? And I wanted it to be light. That's what I got from Steve. That was what I got from Jason Goldberg. They're like funny, light people. And that's what's part of the success. Maybe a huge part of like, they didn't treat it like psychology. They're like, we're not psychotherapists. We're fun coaches. And yeah, you're working with like your mind and your gremlins and stuff, but it doesn't mean it can't be enjoyable. Like you can give them a fun time. So that's, easier said than done, um, but that was the key to it. Then people start hiring you because you know, you're so calm and stuff. If you're calm, then they get calm. If you start getting all worked up, then they get all worked up and they're like, maybe I don't want to do this. And if you have a lot of people pleasing in you, that's the other thing. You got to learn to be like, hey, I don't need them. As much as I'm saying give them a good time, be light, I also don't need them. There's a paradox to like me. So I don't need them. I don't need to if I say it's $3,000 to work with me and they get uncomfortable, make them I don't need to take away their discomfort and be like, no, 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 it's half off. They didn't even say that they needed a discount. You're like, you just felt their nervousness. And so you got to learn to be like, okay, they can be nervous. I don't need to take that away. I don't need to solve that. But that's what people pleasers want to do. They don't want anybody mad or uncomfortable or sad even or um and they can't challenge them. They'll just go along with it. They're like, "Well, I don't even think I need coaching." And then they're like, "Okay, bye." They don't want to like, wait, what do you mean you don't think you need coaching? Like you're allowed to I don't even know what that means. This means that there's uh nothing that you could use another person's help to get better at. Um you just want to do things like all by yourself. You want to read books. You're allowed to like get curious in a loving way, even in that part. Um And I don't, and I know now that there's a major thing that's happening with people. They have a saboteur. Okay, they're gonna sabotage at any moment, at any point. They got getting close to change or transformation. That gremlin's trying to stop them.
Yeah.
They're like, oh man, yeah, I think I could like write a book. This is going good. But then I think I do want to work with you to like write a book. But then the gremlin in them is like, no, you don't. Do not write a book. Don't do anything. So they're going to talk themselves out of things. And you got to know that as a coach, and it took me a long time to figure that out, that, oh, I can't let them wiggle out of it. I can't let them waste. They'll like take a 1 hour coaching session and waste it because they don't even want to get to the meat of things. They're like, maybe I can just talk about the weather and write it all out. And they'll be like, good coaching session, thanks. That wasn't a good coaching session. Their gremlin won that battle. Um, so I was like, oh, there's a big part of them that does not want to change and will do anything it can to stop it from happening. And that's what we're up against. So we do have to have the ability to challenge and then be like, I don't have any money. Is that true? They actually have lots of money, but they just say crazy, weird stuff. Um, does that make sense? Just challenging, like they're lying.
Yeah, I can relate to that. I've been
Yeah.
in conversations with coaches and I've said, no, I can't do that. And I have enough money to pay for that, but I just don't really want to because of what I think it's going to mean.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. He's
Yeah.
like, I have the money to pay for that, but I don't want to use it for that. I'll say, no, I don't have enough money right now. Right. And it's not really being clear,
Yeah.
when straight, which I think is part of what you're sharing here. I love is being able to challenge the yes and being able to challenge the no as well, because I know that's something in the prosperous coaches challenge the yes.
Yeah, you also challenge the yes. You're like, why do you even want to like it's like a fitness trainer. They're like, why do you even want to work out? You don't have to. It's hard. We can make it fun, more fun, but it is hard and you have to do it consistently. And I like it when people challenge your yes and be like, why do you even want a girlfriend? Are you sure you want to do that? Go through this whole process of dating. You don't have to, it's optional. But then they're like, no, no, but I really want to do it. Why then? Tell me. Why do you want to do it? Why do you want to work? This is a big thing that I challenged them on too, is why me? There's like a lot of coaches and a lot of styles. How do you know you want me to be your coach? What is it? What do we work well together? What do we something happen to you when you talk to me? And then I get them to like explain it. They can explain why it's gonna work. And
Yeah.
then if they're
Yeah.
like, I don't really know why I want to work with you, then like maybe you don't want to work with me. Maybe you do because I don't want you to people please me. So I'm also looking out for that. Don't sign up for this unless you know what you want. You want to go for it. You even like the modality of coaching because it is. It's just one way of doing things. You could go to a hypnotist. Yeah. Um, and then are you sure you like me? Because that way, when we do get started, you're like, I'm the light-hearted coach. I'm not like I'm not like, we're not looking into your trauma and your childhood wounds. So, so that's not where you're getting with me. I want to be free to be positive and affirmations are part of it. And so why do you want to be part of me? Like, you like that light, positive way? So then anybody that works with me has to say yes. Yeah, I do want that. And then it goes so much better.
Yeah, I'm curious about something else you shared was about telling the truth. And I want to create some space for questions
Yeah,
for
yeah,
the
yeah.
group, but I want to just get some more, create some more conversation around this with you and I, and then start thinking about everybody who's here, start thinking about the questions of what would be most meaningful for you to have answered. Um, and then we'll open it up for questions in a minute. But telling the truth was something you shared about. I'm curious about how that has evolved for you over time in the past. Like in the beginning, did you tell people the truth or
As
did
a
you have a
coach,
lot of areas? Yeah, did
wait.
you have a lot of areas? This is something I've experienced is in the beginning, I was scared to tell people things that could really make a difference for them, but I was scared it was going to chase them away. Did, and I'm
Oh
curious what
yeah.
your experience has been
Yeah,
and how
yeah,
you've
yeah,
grown
yeah.
in
That
that.
was at first. It was like one time I got feedback from the actual client that they're like, I think you're coaching me on what I want you to hear, what I want to hear, but you're not telling what I need to hear. or like you're believing my lies. Like a client actually had enough awareness to tell me that. They're like, yeah, you are agreeing with me too easily. And I'm not, I'm letting them talk too much. Now I'll just like time out. Time out, stop talking. We're too much is too much. You're talking too much. Let me st ask you some questions first before we move forward. I'm more likely to just jump on something and interrupt. They say something like, "Oh, and then my brother like came over and we were having fighting anyway." And I'm like, "Whoa, whoa, 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 whoa. What do you mean your brother and you were fighting?" Like I don't let them move on. It's so but if people pleaser will never try to interrupt, they'll feel bad. They'll feel guilty. Um I probably, and then I'm like letting them off the hook, like, oh, well, you don't have to like do anything hard or I don't know. It was just too easy. I was too easy on them. And I thought that was good, right? Like, oh, because it's like they're relaxed then in my but then I learned no, I can't just let the fear is winning too much. You know, you could talk to a coach and be like, you know what? Um, you don't have to build a coaching practice. We don't even have to talk about that. I just was too quick to like let them not experience discomfort. We can talk about the weather longer. Yeah. I could be your friend. Because I wanted them to like me.
Yeah. I have
But I
another
didn't want to be an
question.
asshole coach either, you know? And some
Yeah, like high
people,
flame, what Rich
yeah,
Liffin might call high flame, or some coaches would call high flame coach.
yeah.
Yeah.
So then I'm like, how do I find the middle so that I can you know help them find easier paths and simplify things and lighten some things up, but also not letting them give up.
Yeah, I love my coach Raghav Parkov. She's helped me with that too. Because for a while I thought I need to be high flame, and then for a while, no, I need to be more lighthearted. And he consistently says there are no rules. You get to make it up. It's like it's all about what works for you and what works for the client, and maybe that'll be different for each person. And I love that he speaks to that a lot because it reminds me. Because sometimes I think there's one way that everybody's supposed to do it, supposed to do coaching. And he always reminds me that this is a creative um, profession. We get to show up in the way that works for us and serves us and serves the people we're with. And I love that you're saying that. And my question is, do
Yeah.
you have do you have a big well first do you want to share on that? I know we have a one hand raised and we're going to get to you in a minute, Michael, but I'd love to hear your reflections on that. And then I have one more question for you.
Do you want the question first, or do you want to go to Michael first?
Okay, I'll ask you the question. It's really quick. Do you
Okay.
have like a Columbo outfit that you wear whenever you show up as a coach? So you're like,
Well,
Columbo's here does he have a cigar or not, or a pipe or something? Do you put on
yeah,
the pipe
he
and the
he does. My version of it is to just wear like a hat and a t-shirt. But at first, I didn't wear a hat. At first, I thought I had to wear like a dress shirt. At first, I had like a blazer I bought. Like, not no offense that you have one, but I thought like, but I have to or something. You know? Like I have to look impressive. And then I'm like, no, no, I can look um very casual. I can look unintimidating. And it's actually better because then they might feel like it's safer to tell you things. That was the Columbo thing, is they didn't think he was a threat. and then they end up sharing a lot and they share too much. And I just want to feel like it's easy. Um, it's easy to be vulnerable with me. So I do like to wear outfits that are like that.
Yeah, awesome. And
I
I
have
love suit
stuffed
coats.
animals over here. I do all kinds of things to like lighten and the environment up.
Yeah, awesome. I usually tell people how crazy my life still is, and that always helps. It's like I wear a
Yeah.
suit coat, but my life is there's still lots of
Don't-
areas of my life that are still totally a mess. So, hey,
Yeah. Don't be
it's
fooled
like
by the
life.
jacket.
Right, exactly. Like, yeah, my ex-wife still yells at me on the telephone, and I do my best to be loving and kind, and she still says, I'm moving away with our daughter," and I say, no, I'm not going to go for that. Thank you." So it's like life is still showing up, right?
Yeah.
No matter what costume we have on, life is still showing up for every single person. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter how much money any of us are making. It doesn't matter our family. It's just like this is life. We're all in this together. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, I'm really
Yeah,
grateful for what you've shared.
vulnerability, you don't want to be afraid of that sharing. It actually helps them a lot if you can say mistakes and that you weren't always like good at things. Otherwise they just kind of assume you are. They're like, you probably never struggled. And then they're afraid to tell you like, I didn't do my homework or I didn't do they want to lie because they think you will be like disappointed in them. And I'd be like, I'm not disappointed in you. I think, I get have lazy days. So let's get Michael's been very
Yeah, let's do
patient
it.
with his
Yes, he
hand.
has.
Yeah, thank you. So first of all, Nathaniel, thank you very, very much for sharing your story. I took a lot of notes, and for me, it resonated a lot. The last part about like testing the prospect, about this
Mhm.
absolute authenticity and truth, and not people pleasing, and avoid even the prospect or maybe future client to people please. This gave a lot to me. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
And now to my question, I'm having a lot of conversations every day, and I mean, it often happens that it's very fast that I ask questions and we get like into the middle of it. Yeah. So, what are you afraid of? What is behind that? What would happen if you would do this step, and so on? And then
Uh-huh.
I see from the reaction that I'm at the right point. They get wet eyes and so on. And in the end, they appreciate and they see the potential in our conversation. And now my question is, what about this question? Um, do you want to be coached? Is it okay for you that I coach you? Because this question did not happen so far. You know what I mean? So in these conversations where you already get to the point and show a little bit what could be how you could be helpful, but I did not put the question, do you want that? I mean, it was always that they were happy with that and said, hey, wow, you asked the right questions, maybe we should work together. Yeah, but what about this
Yeah.
question?
I think it's that question, uh, do you want to be coached is good. So are these conversations where they're already your client or before they're a client?
No, this is just a starting point that in
Yeah.
is this first conversations as it is described. You talk about the weather, and then you come to the life, and then you come to the problem, and so on. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So before you ever like talk about money, before
Yeah,
they
yeah.
hire you, that's the most important time to ask, do you want to be coached on this goal? Because if you can get very clear on, okay, they're a single person, they're lonely, they want a boyfriend. Okay, that's the goal. And then just because you want it doesn't mean you're willing to do anything about it. So you're like, you have to ask them, are you willing to do something about being single and going for the boyfriend? Do you want to go for it? Like in sports, like when they're going to try to win a championship. And then do you want to do this by yourself? Or to do read books and magazines and try to get there? Or do you want a coach, like a head coach of a football team, to help you get there and be along with you the whole way? And you know what that's going to be like. They're going to hold you accountable and they're going to push you forward and they're going to keep you on track and all of that. Do you want all of that stuff to go while you're going for the boyfriend? And if they say no, no, I think I'll do it myself. Okay, I might have to be okay with whatever they like, it's really truly good for them. But that's the time to ask that because then you could be like, okay, so you want coaching, so you like the idea of being coached, and I'm like, oh yeah, I love the idea of being coached. I think that's what I need. I think that's like the missing element. I'm trying to date alone without a guide. And then, okay, then do you want it to be me?
Um,
Lots of
may,
coaches out there. Yeah. What do you question is
So I understand what you say. Thank you for that.
it? Mm-hmm.
The question is more that it's not when it comes to let's close the deal. It's more
Mm-hmm.
before when I ask already questions which are kind of deep or kind of direct to get to the point. I think that some people already experience or sense it as kind of coaching because yeah, it's with
Yeah.
deeper questions. And this is something which is for me a little bit in the gray zone. I did not ask for that. It's a daily conversation with someone, and I make these deep questions. I mean, it's never weird. It's just about ethical
Yeah.
point of view. Does even for these, you know,
Yeah, I think I know
going.
what you're saying. And so I have this concept that I wrote about it in one of my books called The Bartender Method. This thing called what I call coaching light. And that's what people are just coaching, but it was never in a very professional container. You never said like, "Oh, why don't you have a conversation with me in my office on Friday at 4?" And then doing it for real there. But a lot of coaches that just start coaching people informally, and the client doesn't even know what real coaching even is, and they don't even know if this is it or isn't it. It so questions are okay because you can be a curious person no matter what. But if you start getting to a topic that you think is important to them, I think you want to be like, this sounds really important to you. Do you want to have a conversation about it?
Hmm,
Because I do this professionally, and we could have a conversation about getting a boyfriend tomorrow at 4 o'clock. Come to that, and then we'll
hmm,
dive into it. And then they're going in knowing that that's what it's going to be about, and they can take it. Um, it's just so much more effective. And then they'll be like, "Oh, okay, coaching is an actual modality with techniques, just like a massage therapist doesn't start rubbing their shoulders at Applebee's." They're like, no, do a Swedish massage. I do a stone with hot stones, and we do it on my table with the sheet and the oils and that. It's a whole thing. You want them to be like, it's a whole thing. We don't just do it a little bit. So you're gonna be asking questions like, "Oh, how come you are fighting with your boyfriend?" Like, well, like you can be curious, but if they get to what I call a confession, and they say like, "I am really think we're gonna get divorced, and I want her back." And this is, and then I'm like, wow, this sounds really important to you that you get her back.
hmm.
Why don't we have a conversation about that? And do it for real. And it's very focused, with no distractions, and
Yeah.
really get to the bottom of what's going on. Like, and then they're like, oh, okay, I get. And then they're so much more likely to show up for that. But you can't if you'd already been kind of coaching for light, and they don't even. They're like, well, didn't you just coach me? No, that wasn't coaching. You were eating a taco. We were in the car. You were driving. Like a lot of coaches, they're like, "Well, I had a coaching session yesterday." No, you didn't. You were the passenger in the car, and you just were talking about weather, and all of a sudden you gave him some advice. You don't want them or you thinking that was a coaching session.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Does
Thank
that
you.
make
I
sense?
think makes
Yeah.
yeah, it makes it more clearer. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for the question, Michael. Who else has a question? And also, I'd like to say I'm gonna have to stop hanging out at Applebee's with my list of questions because I've that's where I've been picking up all of my giving all my advice to people and saying that it's coaching. So Ralph has his hand up.
Thank you, Nathaniel. A few people mentioned you. I don't know if we've ever been in the same space, but I really, really enjoyed what you shared. I've just done the AJC this year, as a fairly novice coach. I shouldn't
Yeah.
probably create it as that, but just to say there was some common ground. And I think there's so much gold in what you shared about this process and keep reinvesting in your training. And that's how, it's uh, you're a humorous guy. Like, apart from you've got a different laugh, it kind of reminds me of Beavis and Butthead back in the day. I don't know if you're old enough to remember them.
Yeah.
And it's a real gift that you can do something that covers so many serious potential topics so lightly. And I wanted to ask you, how have you kept that lightness for yourself when you're working with clients? And how do you remind yourself? And how's your relationship to yourself evolved, if they're fair questions?
Yeah. I mean, well, the first thing I do is like I have to be comfortable. I put my foot up. Like, I don't want to take the very beginning of it seriously. Um, that's why if I have to, I will like, and show show up like that because um it's not, I don't want to think, I don't want to trick myself into this is a really big deal. Uh, this matters a lot. There's a lot of pressure. I have to be like, there's no pressure. And it's a fun, enjoyable thing where I get to be myself and I get to be really relaxed. So I just said, and if they don't like it, that they're like, if you want to have a person that doesn't put their feet on the table, go right ahead. There's other coaches like that with a tie and a clipboard and notes, and they'll probably give you drugs, and you could go to a psychiatrist. But but if you like this, and then I just like, well, I have this around. I have toys around that I could play with. Just anything to loosen it up for myself. That I feel like I can just be like, this is your inner self. I don't know. So, if you start trying to do it serious, then I started like, then you start dreading them. And then you start getting worried. You're not doing it right. So I do a bunch of stuff in the beginning of like, you probably never seen any of that before. So that so you don't feel like you have to turn on or off yourself ever.
So what I heard is you have things to prompt and remind you, and from the very beginning, from the onset, you're already getting into this is going to be fun and relaxed.
Yeah.
Because that's how I've experienced coaching, that sometimes I know it's a serious subject and I come in serious, but actually that doesn't help the client. Yeah, and
No,
I love what you shared about Steve Chandler and how you've made his way of doing things your own way of doing things with your own uniqueness. I've watched a good few of his videos. I've been on a few lives with him, and that's been my takeaway from being in a coaching school that everyone does it their own way. I've tended
sure.
to be more serious. That's why I asked that question. So I'm going to get
Yeah.
myself some prompts. I do have a mug. Can't see it now, but I've got a similar mug. So yeah, I love that. Thank you. And but like it's
Because it's like you heard me talk to the last guy. I said, hey, this sounds very important to you. You really want your wife back. You're in danger of getting a divorce. I hear that. Let's have a conversation in a professional way on my office hours, during my office hours. And that's all very professional. But when they get there, I'm still like, hey, tell me about this wife that you like want to get back. So it's like both. I set it up really clearly because I don't want to be loosey-goosey in what are we doing. It's very obvious we're talking about this, and I'm not going to let you talk about other things, and we're going to be focused, but I also am going to be light.
thank
And
you.
if you're too light and the focus part, then you never even get their gremlin will win, and you just talked about baseball the entire time. They'll do it because they don't want to like actually, change. You have to find the part of them that does want to change and then lighten that up.
Yeah, I'm hearing it's like a harmony of orientation, both
Yeah,
for the how you're coming to the session, but also orientating around what matters.
yeah.
Really appreciate your answer. Thank you. It's been fun.
Cool. Thanks. Is there anybody else? Did say everything so perfectly clearly? There's no, no. Everybody's like, I got it. I can make $1 million now.
I love Ralph's question. I love your
Yeah.
question, Ralph. Thank you for sharing that question because I think that's something. This is the other thing that I see. All the things that we talked about today, I can fall in and out of those things off and on with everything that we've talked about. I can get in a rush. I can get too serious. And sometimes it depends on the day of how I'm showing up and um, really working on creating a system so that I can continue to show up like that has been really helpful. I love this conversation has been really phenomenal. Um, there was something in the last. I'm curious how that's changed for you over time. Like what Michael was saying when you first started, were you coaching people and giving advice early on to a lot of people and not seeing the value of creating a committed container for people
Yeah.
for those
Yeah.
conversations, and how has that changed over
It
time
started, I
and
mean,
grown?
it started where you're just trying to be like, well, I don't want, I'm walking on eggshells with people and I don't want to be, I want to be stealth about it. So that and I'm so my gremlin is winning. It's not, I'm never getting into a professional situation. I'm like being in this comfort zone of like, hey, if we do it this way, then like I will never get rejected and I won't make any money, but we'll be very safe. I just throw out some advice and then they just think we're friends and like no one, I don't have to have any weird moments. You're so afraid of awkwardness and weird, but I still have the desire to help people. But that I'm just doing in this just very coaching light way. Um, and it's just not fair to them or me. It doesn't actually help them, these little pieces of advice. They weren't fully listening to it because they had no buy-in. They weren't even prepared. They didn't even prepare their mind to hear stuff, you know? And I think that's important. I think there's got to be like a ceremonial aspect to it, like a ritual, for people to absorb. Like even if you were just giving all advice, like even this that you set up here, Robert, like this is like a ritual. Like we came here, they know that a person's going to talk and give wisdom, and they do whatever they need to do to be here ready. And I think, and you give them some time. It didn't happen in 2 seconds. They knew about this for a while. And then I think that's an important part of the process that I didn't get at first. I was like, well, I could just start going to them right now. Like, and then I'm like, no, it's better if we like wait till tomorrow and they like get ready for it. Yeah. And this at the end that they think know it's a profession. See, they don't know it is. It's not, it's kind of an unknown one. I was just talking to somebody and they're like, is that like a therapist? They don't know. So you don't, so we have to do it like show them what it is. It's just as real as any other thing you would doctor appointment or acupuncture or anything else you'd go to. Oh, what's Veronica have to say about that?
Well, first of all, thank you so much. It all
Oh,
resonates in every way
yeah.
and sense. And so it's very helpful. I'm sure everybody will agree that, and lots of food for thought and practice to put it to the test. But yeah, so my question is about how to transition from that personal interaction where you're already helping people. They're grabbing as much as they can from you in advice and every which way. They're even coming to you because they're trusting you. But you never get to that professional hat where you establish that container safe space. Hey, it seems like this is very important. Would you like to have some clarity on this? We can book some time. When you
Mhm.
do that transition and present that invitation, are they already expecting that there's going to be a professional side to it? Like, even though you're not going to explain what coaching is, you're actually going to do it with them and walk them through and see if that will resonate and be of value for them. But are they aware that it's going to be a transition to now a profession, like not professional, how can I put it? Like it's going to be a conversation that is going to be different than just the friendly, like here and there, two pieces of advice kind of thing. Like
Yeah.
how do you create that expectation so they come with a different, I guess, yeah, with that willingness to say, hey, we're going to dedicate like this hour or whatever it is, 90 minutes, and let's just, I want to hear you. And so, but under what expectation is that created, that invitation?
Yeah. Yeah, good question. I've got a good answer. The You don't want to give any advice until the coaching session. You're saving all advice. You don't give them even one little bit. You don't give them any nugget of advice. You're just asking dumb questions. You haven't impressed them at all. So you're actually surprising them when you say you're a coach. uh it's like they were talking about the relationship and I'm like, how come you're still married if you don't like her? And why I'm not trying to say anything coachy. um I'm not like, hey, are you what do you think is underneath that? Like I'm like, no, I'm just more like, uh oh, your wife is mean? Question mark. I don't say what to do about it. I pretend I don't say, "Hey, I read a book about that. I know a lot." I do know a ton about it. I'm really really educated on relationships, but I do not let them know that. I mean, I do not tell them any of it. If they want any of my relationship wisdom, they have to book a call. And that
Mhm.
you got to be very but aren't they your friend? Yeah, my friend. I had to learn this. Friends does not mean you have to help them or ever give them advice. You can talk about movies and sports
Mhm.
and things you have in common, and you don't have to help them. You'd be like,
Okay.
I just want to talk about baseball. That's where you talk about baseball. You can help them with remembering the team's name. You can help them with anything trivial. But when it comes to their life, if they really want help with a relationship, they don't know you have even advice. You just tell them at the end, like, because if you act that way, I swear to God, this works. They're going to confess to you. If I'm just like, oh, your like wife is mean? Question mark. And then they're like, yeah, she actually when we come home from work, she just starts yelling at me, and sometimes she locks herself in the bedroom and like won't eat dinner with us, and they're pouring out all this stuff, and I'm like, oh, you have to eat dinner by yourself. You know what I mean? I don't say anything like, do you know about boundaries? I don't say anything like that. And then they're pouring more and more out until you get to what I call a confession. A confession sounds like it's not going well between me and my wife, and um, I'm sick of it, and it's really bothering me. This like really sucks. Like they're being vulnerable. They don't have the answers and they don't have it figured out. And I'm still not giving it to them there either. I'm like, oh, like, and I might be like, what are you gonna do? And then they're like, I don't know. I'm like really stuck. That's a good confession. And then I'll be like, hey, yeah, you're stuck and this is really important to you, and it sounds like this really sucks for you. You're in a lot of pain. Um, hey, I didn't tell you this, but I'm a professional relationship coach. I could actually help you with this. You can? Yeah, I know all kinds of things about how people can, you know, turn around the relationship. Why don't we talk about it on Tuesday at 4? It'll be a whole thing. It'll be a whole coaching session, so get ready for it. Treat it like you paid $5,000. But I won't charge you anything. And then it's just super dead clear what happened. You were dumb, and now all of a sudden you know stuff. But I didn't tell them. They left that day with no help. Other than I listened to them and they got to vet it. They felt we bonded. We could still like we bonded. They trust me. Yeah, that made sense.
Thank you so much. It really made a lot of sense. I really appreciate it. It's like really helpful. And on that note, I do have to leave in 2 minutes, but I want to thank you, everybody.
Cool.
Yeah,
Thanks for coming.
the container, we have 1 more minute for the container. And for the end of this, I want to say thank you so much to Nathaniel. And I'd love for each person to think about, what did you get from this time today? What are you going to take away from this and be able to use and apply in your life? Insights without application, just kind of, floating around in there. So start to think about, well, how can you use the insights that came to you today and start to apply those in your life? And I want to say thank you for everybody who showed up, especially you, Nathaniel, and everybody else for what you did to be here, carving out the 90 minutes,
Hmm.
and coming here. And thank you, Nathaniel, for coming here and sharing your experience, your heart, your energy, your presence, your love, and being here with us and sharing this is really valuable. I got a lot out of this, and I hope everybody else did too. I see Julie has her hand up, and we're at the end. So if you'd like to reach out to Nathaniel, if anybody wants to get in touch with Nathaniel, reach out to me, and I'll get you connected so you can talk to Nathaniel if you have any other questions. Thank you, everyone.
And
Thank
thank you,
you.
Robert.
Thank you, everybody.
Ne-
Thank you, Nathaniel. Thank you,
You're
Robert, and
welcome.
next
everybody.
Thank you.
Bye
Thank
bye.
you
next
so
one's
much.
April 22nd. See y'all.